show, of course, Baz, we said we're going to do some montages, being our last show for the year, mate. We take the break for Christmas and the students go off and enjoy themselves and we keep slaving away merrily.
Yes.
So, mate, the montage coming up, mate. Johnny Letts, Darren Reeves, Russell Ebert.
Yeah.
Three of the best that we had
absolutely,
this year.
mate. Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. Our producer's done well there.
All right. Hope you enjoy this montage.
I'm here with sporting royalty. Let me tell you, Johnny Letts, welcome to Ando's Blast from the Past.
Thanks, Greg. It's great to be
honoured,
here.
mate. I'm telling you, I'm honoured. Absolutely fantastic. I mean, I've actually done a little bit of research. I love my racing.
Yes.
But when you start looking at 2,350 wins, that is amazing. Absolutely amazing. And I know we've got a couple of Melbourne Cups and a few other things we'll go through as my little segment goes along. But take us back, 16 years old, you're apprentice jockey, your life now's ahead of you, and would you have ever thought you would have ridden over 2,350 wins?
Well, you know, Greg, when I started off, I was 15 years of age. Like, I hadn't ridden a horse till I was 13.
Right.
And my teacher, I went to Lefevre Tech.
Yep.
That was the 7th school I'd been to because I kept running away from schools all the time, and I just didn't want to be educated, more or less.
Yeah.
and you know, I think sometimes, Greg, how lucky was I? The last teacher that had me as his pupil was at Lefevre Tech, and he said to me, "What are you going to do when you leave school?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, I was 4 stone 5 and I was 4'5".
Right.
And he said, "Why don't you become a jockey?" And I said,
Just like that?
Just like that. And you know, sometimes, Greg, I think, what if that 1 to 7 schools had said it to me before him? I mightn't have taken any notice.
Yeah, you're right.
But he said it. He said, "You've got the perfect credentials." And I'll tell you what they are. You're not real big and you're not real smart. So I said, "I'm perfect."
But then you got Hayes down the road, because
yes.
Down at Semaphore, of course, there was such a thriving industry. Was our horse industry just off Military Road there, and you'd see all the horses, doing their water work down on the beach and things like that. So a lot of people forget that. Yet it's great residential real estate now, of course, but back in those days there was lots and lots of stables, and it was a thriving industry. And as you said, you're 4'5", and sliding door moment, wasn't it?
It was, Greg. And you know, you talk about that area, and of course you know that area. I mean, West Lakes was Colin Hayes' training track.
That's right, yeah.
And we had Albie Holberton, we had the Cowie boys, we had the Matsons, we had famous names in racing that were in that.
That's right.
When you go back, isn't it, though? But when you go back, Greg, and you think, the famous names that have come from this area, you know, as trainers.
Yeah, that's right.
There was the Jack May and Billy May, Albie Holberton, and Lenny Smith, and like Frank Smith, and he drove Minor Derby, and Alan Smith. I mean, it was just royalty in the block.
There, yeah. And West Lakes is there, but we moved to West Lakes in 1974 in December, and they let the water in a week later. So you take yourself back to when you do an apprentice. That was where you guys were racing for training and et cetera, and generations as well, because some of the names that you just mentioned,
famous names,
I know their sons, and they're still in the racing game.
Yes.
It just really is amazing.
But you know, Greg, one of the stories that comes out of it, when Colin Hayes had his track, it was a cinder track, and it was in swampland. As you know, West Lakes was a swampland. Well, we would take the horses, and Colin Hayes would say to us, and it'd be summer, and it'd be pretty warm, and Colin Hayes would say, trot the horses a lap, and then next lap we worked them.
Yeah.
Well, these are true stories, because we could trot a horse a lap, and when we come round the next lap on the cinder track, it was a cinder track, you could see where the snakes had been across, and in that swampland.
Of course it's going to be there, yeah.
And you think, wow, if I ever fall off a horse going around here, I'm going to be back on its back before it goes another step.
Exactly.
That's what it was.
But
it was a great area.
Colin Hayes, you're just talking about Colin Hayes, and I mean, you know, also another South Australian incredible icon of sports, you know, and some of the names you just mentioned there's a whole bunch of you, really, really fantastic, yeah.
And you know, Greg, and you'd find it too, being involved with the guys down there in the football area, it was family, wasn't it?
It was family. Yeah, it was community.
Yeah, it was community. It was family,
yeah.
which I think the industries now, a lot of industries are losing that, aren't they? They're losing the community, family feeling. And that's sad, because now it's got more, well, I won't say more professional, but it's
commercial.
Got commercial. Yeah. That's the word. Yeah. That's the word.
Yeah.
It's great when you win a grand final. When you've only won a few over the journey, that's 6 in about 103 years, it's even a bit more exciting. Of course, Darren Reeves, coach of Glenelg, who defeated Sturt in the SANFL grand final, joins us. Firstly, mate, congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
No, mate. So clearly you didn't read the mantra at Glenelg. 1934, 1973, 1985, 86, 2019 and then suddenly 2023, mate. I make that 6 grand finals in 103 years, so it's not like they happen easy.
Yeah, it's definitely been a struggle for Glenelg to win premierships. I know, talking to Peter Carey a lot over the last few weeks, I think he played in 10 grand finals to win 3. So, there was definitely a bit of pressure going into the game. There was the expectation was that we were a big chance to win, obviously, but there was some nervous people around the footy club that have seen it all before. So, and we'd had a great preparation going in as well, so that probably puts a little bit more nervousness, tension around the place. So, we got the job done in the end, so it was really pleasing.
It's a funny stat, that, because when you say it like that, 6 in 103 years, it seems like Glenelg have been around the mark
all the time. Yeah.
All the time. Like they've been very successful over the last, I don't know, decade, if you like. But when you say it like that, you go, oh wow, I would have thought they won more than that. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yep.
Because they are a big club, big strong club.
Well, I was surprised when I researched it. I thought, wow, I don't know why I had a number of 20 plus in my head. And I went, so what it actually does for Reeves, they've won 6, but Cornsey won 2 of those. So he's one of 5 coaches in 103 years to win a premiership with Glenelg.
Yeah.
So once you start doing the numbers, it's. I know for you, mate, you don't like to talk about yourself, but the magnitude of what you accomplished in that footy club is quite staggering in a short period of time, one season.
I must admit that when I first got the job, I went into the change rooms and there's all the players' names up and the premiership players and stuff on the lockers, and there's a board in the change room that just had the premiership coaches, and I was blown away when there was only 4 names on that board at that point, because you just recognise Glenelg with success and being around the mark all the time. So to see my name up on that board now, that probably, it's a pinch yourself moment.
Well, the other one that Glenelg have been really good at too is sacking coaches, mate. They have had a record in the past for that. It's kind of tidied up in the last decade or so, but if you went through gone, you understand if you don't win it next year. That's the point I'm getting to.
Reality is well aware.
Let's talk about, sorry, I'm interested in grand final week, the build-up of the week, in that it becomes a much bigger circus and a much bigger focus. Did you prepare much coming into that week, and then did it pretty much go to script?
I think my experience over the last couple of years, having spent the last couple of years at North Adelaide and experiencing some grand finals, I took some learnings out of that, and talking to a lot of the guys that were around the place for Glenelg in 2021, and some things that they probably didn't get right. There was some things we definitely put in place, and there was a real focus for us for embracing what was ahead of us, but just enjoying it and making sure that when it got to the moments we executed, and that was training, our preparation, etc., and then game day. And one of the things, having our reserves group in the grand final as well, I know a lot of the players spoke about spending too much time watching the reserves game, so we made it a real focus for our league guys to not watch too much of the reserves game and make sure they got their preparation right. And I think in the end that was a pretty important thing to do, and to their credit, I feel like the playing group got their preparation done to the nth degree, and it was really important in the end.
You made the point before that there was a few of the older Glenelg fans that were a little bit jumpy because of what's happened in the past and all that. So they'd be good people to stay away from if I were you during the week, because there would be quite a lot of them. We're going, hey, hang on a minute, we've been there before. Yeah. We're a bit wobbly or whatever. That supporters, not good people, great people for your club, but not good people to talk to during the week, I wouldn't think. Yeah,
and I must admit, I tried to not engage in too many of those conversations, because our preparation had been so spot on to that point, and you expect something's going to go wrong at some point. So I tried not to get involved in too many of those conversations on from a personal perspective, and I definitely made sure the players didn't get involved in too many of those conversations either. We had a job to do, and that was what we focused on.
Well, it worked, because from what I saw, your preparation was spot on, because your first quarter was as good a quarter that I've seen all year from any team, whatever, in the SANFL. It was real pressure in that first quarter, and I thought it set your win up. I thought that first quarter really was the difference in the game. That's what I think so.
I mean, in big games of football, I think starting the game is incredibly important. It's always hard to chase from behind, and it probably wasn't the prettiest brand of football we've played all year, but we've been really focused on being a tough, consistent football side when it really mattered. And I think probably from a coaching perspective, when I look back on the year, the second semi-final and the grand final, we played a brand of football that we knew we had to play to win those big games, and that's the most pleasing aspect. We put some things in place and the players were able to execute that on the bigger stage, and that's a great credit to them.
Terrific guests on our show over the last period, but none greater than this one here. And I'm going to welcome to the SA Sports Show one of the greats of South Australian football, Russell Ebert. Russ, welcome to the SA Sports Show. We've been chasing you like a rabid dog.
And described like that sometimes. No, it's great to be on the SA Sports Show, Baz.
And great to see you again, mate.
Just watch it most weeks, and I catch up when I don't see it. So
you would have seen
wonderful.
You would have seen some good guests. There's been some terrific guests on the show.
Yeah, I've seen some that really have a fitness program, and some that I don't think have got a fitness program. And true. I noticed the lens went out a little bit wider, but that's fine. That's fine.
First of all, mate, congratulations on your 50 years. Now, that only just came up in the last couple of weeks. 50 years service to the football club, to Port Adelaide, along with our boot stutter, Alfie Trebilco. But nice fella to actually share it with, I would reckon, for you. But 50 years, mate, that is a long time at the footy club. It's been a very big part of your life.
Huge part, Baz, and I was really pleased that we could do it as a club with Alfie, because he's been there for the whole journey.
Yeah.
And we've had many accolades, pats on the back, exposure, etc., and been paid for what we do.
Yes.
But Alfie's done it voluntarily. Yeah. So for someone to give 50 years of voluntary service while they're running a butchering business, while they're raising a young family, to come down and be involved in any organisation, but as the boot stutter, and important piece of equipment, and Alfie's looked after him for 50 years, so it was just absolutely brilliant that he got the acknowledgement too for his service.
All right, let's start with year one. You're a Waikerie kid, and you were invited to Port Adelaide. You were invited down to train and see what happens. Now, you came along with another one of my favourite players, in Bruce Light, in the car down to Albert. What do you run us through that, Russ? What happened there?
Oh, well, it really started in Loxton, moving there in 1956 from the farm, and massive flood for those who remember 56, and we moved into Loxton and finished my schooling and my junior footy at Loxton and joined the Savings Bank of South Australia. And then in those days you spent a couple of years in a country branch because you were home, you were comfortable. It was good for the branch to have a local person in there because the people would come in and say g'day and do their banking. But then I got transferred after 9 months to Waikerie in September 1966. So I finished my senior Colts, and then the next year, I'm in a different town, a town that we beat quite convincingly in everything, from school sports to cricket to footy, etc. So I'm thinking, I've gone from the Loxton Tigers, 6-time premierships, down to Waikerie. However, it was the best move that I could possibly have made because Waikerie weren't quite as strong in the A-grade competition, and I honestly believe I wouldn't have made the senior Loxton side in 1967. Yeah. But Waikerie, being an improving team, I played in their A grade, and we had Don Guerin, who played for Sturt down here. He was a local school teacher. He coached us and coached us very well. We had a couple of lads come up from the Barossa and Light to play, and we had a pretty good team in 67 as Waikerie. We went through and we did reasonably well. We didn't make the grand final, but through that year a lot of the lads got noticed because we were winning games of footy. And a few scouts around the place lived locally, some didn't, some came through and had a look and reported back to Alberton that there were a few lads up there that could actually play. So got the invitation to come down here. It was made pretty easy because Kim Lehman was playing for North Adelaide and commuting, and Bruce Light, as you mentioned, was living and working in Waikerie but playing footy down here, and he'd come down the year before to play, so it was pretty comfortable to jump in the car and come down to Albert and just to try out. And I thought I'll have a couple of training runs just to satisfy them all, and then I'll go back to Wakery or Loxton and be happy ever after in the country and whatever happens then. Well, 50 years later, I'm bloody still here.
That's right.
Bloody still here.
Well, the triple, a couple of beauties in there. Russell Ebert, without
Yeah, mate,
doubt.
miss the man.
We miss Russ, don't we?
Oh, terribly, mate, terribly.
He was an absolute beauty. Anyway, we need to get to break. Stay with us still. Plenty to come.